All right,
Well, they moved
late
it,
way
I'm thinking
back.
15,
Probably at
18 years
4:04.
ago.
Okay,
Are we on?
we are on. It is 4 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to everybody here. Happy New Year, our first meeting of the year. 2024 is going to be a great year, I just know it. So we will move into Pastor Moore. Welcome.
Good afternoon, and again, Happy New Year to all that are here. Let us go to the Lord in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we ask you today, Lord, as we gather in this place, we ask that the power of your Spirit will convene with us all. Father, we ask for your divine wisdom, your divine knowledge will penetrate the hearts of this panel, that they will make the most best decisions possible for our community as we move forward in these trying times. God, we thank you for what you've already done. We thank you, God, that you are now, even yet now, as we sit here, preparing us for the future. Lord, we bless you and we honor you, and we give you all of the praise, the honor, and the glory. These things we pray in your darling Son, Jesus Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Are we doing the pledge
Thank
of
you.
allegiance? Are we doing? To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to turn over the organizational matters to Jennifer Peschke. Jennifer.
Okay, thank you. Happy New Year, everyone, and welcome. We'll begin our organizational matters as we do every January with the election of officers. The bylaws of the Indian River County Hospital District require that the district reorganize at the first meeting of each year, which this is, and elect 5 officers. Any member may make a nomination for any of the 5 offices. The 5 offices to be voted on include chairman, vice chairman, secretary, assistant secretary, and treasurer, and we'll call for nominations and then a motion to close the nominations. So we'll begin with nominations for our chairperson.
I'd like to nominate Mary Beth Cunningham.
Second.
Okay, and all in favor for Mary Beth Cunningham to serve as our chairperson again this year, or chairwoman?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Mary Beth will be our chairwoman this year. Next, we'll move for motion, I'll request a motion or nomination rather for our vice chair.
I'm not sure how this process works, but I'd be happy to serve at the pleasure of the board and our taxpayers as vice chair of the Indian River Hospital District. I think having a physician on the board has been helpful, generally speaking, as well as lawyers and accountants and, of course, community leaders. But if that's a reasonable thing to do.
Certainly, you can nominate yourself for the vice chair position, or anyone else can nominate themselves for any of the open positions as well. Is there a second on that nomination?
I'll second that.
Okay. We'll go forward then. We have a nomination and a second. Any, all in favor of the nomination for Dr. Cooney to serve as our vice chair? We'll go by voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Anyone on the phone or Zoom?
Barb is, but she's not.
So-
I think she's just listening. She's driving.
Okay, just want to make sure no one else was participating that we couldn't hear or needed to hear.
It's not on.
No.
Okay. All right, so we have a majority then in favor, so the motion will carry. Dr. Cooney will be our vice chair. All right, next we'll call for nominations for our secretary.
I would like to nominate Barbara Bodnar.
Okay, Barb Bodner's been nominated for secretary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor of Barbara Bodner serving as our secretary?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. And next, we need an assistant secretary. We need a nomination for assistant secretary, please.
Nominate Carrie.
Carrie?
Yes.
Thought that's what I heard, but I want to make sure you said Carrie, not Karen. Okay, so Carrie Bartlett's been nominated to
Who's
serve
it?
it. I'm sorry?
Who is in that position now?
I was vice
Karen.
chairman.
Karen,
Karen.
the assistant secretary.
I just want to make sure I heard you correctly, that's all.
Yeah.
Carrie Bartlett has been nominated for the assistant secretary position. Second to that? The nomination actually does not require a second. We'll go ahead and vote. All in favor for Carrie to serve as our assistant secretary, Carrie Bartlett.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Position is, but okay.
He'll be good at it.
Motion carries, as long as Carrie's willing to serve as our assistant secretary. Is there any opposed? I didn't hear any opposed. Okay. And I do have position descriptions I can share with everybody.
We need to do treasurer.
Yes, I'm getting there. I didn't forget. Our last officer role to call for is a nomination for treasurer.
I nominate Michael.
Second.
Okay, Michael Kent has been nominated for treasurer. That's been seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Michael Kent will be our treasurer. And I can circulate position descriptions from the bylaws tomorrow, or later tonight even.
Okay.
So that concludes our election of officers for the 2024 year. Thank you.
You gonna do that, or do you want me to?
So the next thing that we normally do at this meeting is we determine the frequency of meetings, how often the board's gonna meet, the time of day of the meetings, and the meeting location. Is there something that I normally?
So the
staff
question is,
propose?
does anybody want to change any of those things?
I do not. I just have a question. I think February, there's a separation. Is it the chairman's meeting, is it described as the Wednesday before the third Thursday? So that we know that if for some reason they get separated, we're okay?
I believe so.
Okay. Just for clarification, because I think one of the months this year, there's some weird separation between the third Wednesday.
February starts on a Thursday, so
That's
it's
what it
not,
is.
it,
So it's the Wednesday before the
correct.
third
It's not
Thursday.
the third Wednesday.
Not the third Wednesday and
Yeah.
the third Thursday, it's the third
Correct.
Thursday and the Wednesday before that.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I move that we maintain the current schedule.
I'll second that.
Okay, so that would be meeting the third Thursday, or, I'm sorry, the third Thursday of the month for our monthly meetings, and the Wednesday prior to the third Thursday for our chairman's meetings
Right.
each month. And we'll publish a meeting date and schedule and circulate that. And the same time, so that would be 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the chairman's meetings, and then 4 p.m. for the monthly meetings, and the same location, the district office for the chairman's meetings, and the county chambers here for the 4 p.m. monthly board meetings. All in favor?
Yes. Aye.
Aye.
Mary Beth, I had one technical question. It probably doesn't matter. I mentioned to Kate, sometimes the minutes are signed by Barbara Bodnar, but when you read the beginning, she's not in attendance. So would that then go to the assistant secretary to do the minutes so it looks consistent that they're at the meeting, that they took the minutes at, or?
It's very infrequent that the secretary wasn't at the meeting, but in that case, I could have the assistant secretary, if they were present, sign the minutes, if that board
does.
would so like.
Here we
Does
go.
make sense.
Makes sense.
Sure,
That's a good thing to bring up.
thank you.
Now that we've decided we're gonna be here, I mean, have we cleared this room? Do we know that it's available, continuing
Yeah,
at this time?
Typically, I'll work with the county, but we've done it for so many years. I usually will
They
send
probably
the
blocked it in.
schedule to Tina, yeah.
I think the only time that we've had a problem in the last 2 years was sometimes in the September meetings when we have multiple meetings to approve the budget, and we've run into some other.
Yep.
Okay, we'll move on. The consent agenda. May I hear a motion of approval for the chairman's meeting minutes dated December 20th, the regular monthly meeting minutes dated December 21st, and a January disbursement of, Michael?
$1,286,480.93.
Can I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Well, thank you again, I guess, appreciate being nominated for chairwoman again. And like I said, I think we've got an interesting year ahead of us with a lot to do, so a lot of things happening. We'll get into Jennifer, the council report.
Okay. Just had that right in front of me, and I filed it away for some silly reason. Let's see here.
You want mine?
Oh, I've got it. Oh, here, I'll take yours. I have it in front of me. Okay, so I really do kind of know this from memory anyways, because I've done all of this work. So again, we're always available to respond to your questions and have done so throughout this past month. Of course, we're continuing to review the annual deadlines and deliverables due to the district under the lease and under any of our other funding agreements with the Cleveland Clinic and any of our other funded agencies. We are working towards closing. That'll be held in the beginning of April for the transaction with the VNA to purchase the vacant land that is part of the now known as the Hospice House parcel. That is all moving forward. I don't anticipate any issues with that as we proceed towards the closing date. As everyone is aware or has been made aware the last few months, the district-owned Human Services Building is currently vacant, and we've been engaging in some lease discussions with the Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine, which is interested in leasing the building for use as a medical school, and we are in the process of working to finalize a lease agreement, and we'll bring that back before the board for final approval when this is approved by both parties. I also wanted to clarify something. So yesterday, when I stated that we had sent the lease draft to VCOM's council, we have not actually sent it to their council. We were waiting for some benchmarks from them to kind of detail the appropriate time frame that would be realistic to put into the lease draft to send to them. So the lease draft didn't actually go to them. We prepared it, and then we were awaiting comments, which we received last week Friday and was circulated and shared with all of you at yesterday's meeting. We still need a little bit more information from the comments we received last week Friday that we discussed at our meeting yesterday before I can input that into the lease and then circulate it to VCOM's council. So this is moving, but I wanted to make that point of clarification because we haven't circulated a lease, and that's why you all haven't seen it.
They didn't really comment on the draft lease. They
Right.
commented on the timeline.
Well, they haven't been sent the draft lease. That's why they didn't
Okay.
comment on it. We had asked them for benchmarks
Right.
to accomplish
Right.
certain things that we want to see in our lease.
Yes.
And we did that because we want to make sure that what we put in the lease makes logical sense for what they're doing. We didn't want to set them up, send them a draft that didn't make any sense for, getting accredited and setting a medical school up and all of those things involving the remodel of the facilities even. I mean, we just need a little bit more information. And so I think after the meeting yesterday, Frank's working, and he can speak to this too, he's working to get another meeting or call so we can get a little bit more information to then be able to send a lease.
Correct. And I can speak to that for a minute, but go ahead, Paul.
Well, and also, it might be, there were some comments that we made yesterday that may affect the contents of the lease.
Yes.
That probably, in fairness to VCOM, ought to be shared with them sooner rather than later so that they can be processing the what-ifs that are associated with that.
Yes, and there was some really good discussion yesterday also around looping in an agreement in writing with Cleveland Clinic, some sort of an MOU or memorandum of understanding to confirm, okay, we lease this building, we bring these people here, but we certainly need the cooperation and agreement of the hospital to facilitate the program. So I just wanted to clarify that point because no lease has gone anywhere yet for that reason. But we are working towards that actively.
And you were going to contact Cleveland, right?
Correct. Well, two things. Number one, we have to ensure, and I'm going to reach out to Dr. Cannon with VCOM and just make sure that, we're able to incorporate a realistic timeline for the 8 to 10 years to establish the fully accredited four-year medical school. But also the other component that we realized the other day in discussion was a critical element to that is the fact that that Cleveland has all the appropriate residencies set up and ready to go to ensure the success of this program overall. So we really need Cleveland's involvement as well. So that's where we are right now. So I'll be connecting with Cleveland, connecting with Dr. Cannon and VCOM to make sure all these pieces are in place.
I think they were also talking about some of those students
going down to Martin, Cleveland and Martin, and potentially even HCA.
We need some additional clarification to your point.
Yeah, we need to understand what, all the hospitals that they intend to work with.
Indeed.
Because Cleveland, Indian River, I don't think could take all of them.
No, yeah, correct. Right, from the numbers that they've shared so far, correct.
I think we need clarification that they're really talking about a medical school and not residency programs. Are they talking about both? I think, as we pointed out yesterday, there's a difference between the two, and as they pointed out, Mary Beth, that they were also talking about Martin County hospitals as well. So that's, I think Joe Iannotti, Dr. Iannotti is the key contact person down in Weston with Connor Delaney to kind of get this, at least make us knowledgeable what's the plan.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Cooney. And I will work with all these parties to make sure that we have these questions answered. So, thank you.
Okay, well, great. I just wanted to make that clarification, and we do have a few moving parts there, but by next meeting or before, we should have some more to come back to you all with. It's more concrete as we continue through this process. Couple
Can I
other,
make another comment on that?
go ahead.
Frank did send out today, because I got it, but it was a pretty interesting article on VCOM and the agreement they have. That never came up in any of our conversations.
I was surprised, quite honestly, 2021, yeah.
Yeah, their relationship with Indian River State College. But anyway, I thought it was interesting that they had that relationship for that long.
So just for clarification, if you didn't see it, so they had, VCOM had established a relationship with Indian River State College in 2021, I think January, February 2021, to try to ensure that the students are prepared to enter medical school, and they would go through a process where they would, be screened for admission, but it was very supportive of making sure that we have Indian River students get into the VCOM medical school. So
It was basically, if they
Yeah.
qualified, they got in.
that's what it sounded like.
Guaranteed admission.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. I'm glad we got those comments discussed. Okay, so last couple quick things. We're still continuing to monitor the Florida House Bill PCB LFS 2402, which if passed would affect the hospital improvement district in two main ways. One, term limits would be established for our trustees limited to 12 consecutive years. Additionally, a referendum would be required on November 3rd of 2026. That would be the first time for that. And every 10 years thereafter to reauthorize the existence of the district. If the voters voted to not reauthorize the district's affairs would be wound up and it would be dissolved. So certainly we'll be monitoring that because there's a lot of good work that is done here and a lot of people served in our community from the dollars that the district is able to assess. We're also monitoring the Florida Association of Special Districts for further information and details as to compliance options that will become available for the Board of Trustees regarding now required ethics training that came into play as of January 1st of 2024 for elected officials. As soon as we have more information on that, the district office will be sharing that with the trustees. We're also, as you are aware, working to put in place eventually an LOI and potentially a purchase and sales agreement between the district and Children's Home Society. We've ordered a title search that appears to be clear at this time, but for some matters that we need to clear up and obtain further information from the seller on. We've also had correspondence as of yesterday with Boyle and Drake to request appraisals for both parcels, and I'm awaiting a written fee agreement from Stephen Boyle, but we do have confirmation they can certainly do that for both of us for the entity for both parcels in the next 3 weeks. They can do that for the district in the next 3 weeks, and just literally looking for the paperwork to get over to you guys to sign. So that's moving as well. That concludes my report. Any
Financial
questions? Sorry, I
Okay. Financial statement, Michael.
With our first quarter of fiscal year 23-24 behind us, I'm pleased to report that the hospital district continues to be in excellent financial condition. And as the report included in your meeting packet shows, December's installment of tax revenue brought us up to 81% of what we have budgeted. On the expense side, the report shows program expenses are approximately $140,000 under budget for the month. and $533,000 under budget year-to-date. Admin expenses were under budget by $3,600 and over budget by about $18,000 for the year. Regarding the district's investments, you found a one-page document at your place today. And this is a document which Frank has pulled together, and it's an excellent overview of all of our investments, showing the type of investment, where it's held, interest rates, values, dates of maturity, totals. It's just an excellent overview. And in fact, I'm going to suggest, and I didn't say anything to Frank, but I think that this should be included on a monthly basis as part of the packet that you get in the financial statement review section. And in fact, if you grab the document, I want to make sure you've got it. It's really very straightforward, so much easier than having even to pass out deep blue statements. Frank's done an excellent job here. Basically, you look at section 1, you see that it's showing the U.S. Treasuries, and they're laddered. They gives you the maturity dates. We've talked about this frequently, but this is just a simple way to see that we've got about $7,752,000 when they come due, and how those are scheduled. Section 2 is the section that defines that preferred deposit pool that we've referred to many times is really money market. And right now, I know it says 5, but I think Frank said the current rate is actually 5.3.
5.3%.
And I mean, the point of the investments, of course, is to utilize the citizenry's money as best as we can. So as we've got that revenue, we want to see ourselves doing everything we can to get interest income from them. And Section 3 then is much smaller, but it's just the local Seacoast Bank deposit and operating accounts. Frank made a point of noting we don't normally carry that much. You see the 1.463 million. That was just a timing thing. There wasn't time for him to get it reinvested. It literally was just based on getting this completed at the end of December. But those two accounts are always maintained so that they can handle our monthly expenses, which we've talked to generally are on 1.2 million. Again, why things get laddered so they'll drop for us. And in that preferred deposit pool, as a money market, all those funds are available to us at any point in time. You'll note at the bottom, then it also totals that, notes that the total amounts invested are $15,983,609, and along with the cash totals, then there's a little over 18 million. Something that it doesn't show, but something that Frank talked about this morning, and it's really either a personal or call it an internal goal, which we at the Finance and Audit Committee today certainly approved of, is to try to have 95% of all the revenues that we have at any given time are invested. You know, he can always manage to make sure that we've got enough in the operating account to cover those bills when they come due, but it's just a good practice, obviously. It's already stated. So that's a document I think that you will begin to see, and it, you know, I just spout numbers to you. This is a document you'll have that really defines for you what our holdings are.
Can I ask a couple questions on that?
Sure.
So we have this much because we received all our tax dollars.
Right.
So this will be slowly going down, right?
And it has been going down. In fact, last year, we ate into our own reserves. And I think that's happened for a couple of years.
So have you predicted, I guess it wouldn't be predicted, but have you looked at, once this turns over and they all mature and all that, what the gain is?
I can kind of give you an answer for that. So, Madam Chairman, this is, and so you'll see this sheet and you'll understand the number that I'll share. But this is the reason for this number is really because you, Madam Chairman, the board, and Anne Marie Suriano, because this stuff was set up long before I got here. So just to give you an idea, I did not project, to answer your question, I did not project for this fiscal year, but I will, because this came up at Finance and Audit, and I said that I would make that projection for the year. But I just wanted to give you a sense, I'm going to go back to the budget. So what we projected for this year was $285,000 in interest income. So just to give you an idea, if you read my letter in the report, so far year-to-date, after our first quarter, we've generated almost just under $300,000, $299,597. So in one quarter, we've already exceeded the annual budget for interest. This is not because of these investments I made. This is because of what you decided to do and what Anne Marie decided to invest money in, because we had a treasury mature last month for $93,000. So this money has been well invested for some time. All this sheet does is just outline where the money is, how it's invested, and the goal is, the beautiful thing is, if you look at number 2, Florida Fixed Income Trust, I'm using that as our checking account. So essentially, it's a checking account that pays 5.3% on $8 million. I mean, so it's, it's a lot of interest, but it's a great deal. Anyhow, so I just wanted to share that. But I will have that answer for you at the next meeting.
And again, we're calling these investments because they are. And you see a total of 18 million, but we're recognizing that from the county, we've received already over $11 million in that tax revenue. So we're doing the best we can with that in advance and earning money on it.
So my other question is, has the Finance Committee thought about or discussed what days on hand we should have in case something happens? And
I knew you were going
from,
there,
well, from, my business background, you always had talked about days on hand and, versus run rate and what should we have. Have you talked about what that protective rate should be?
I'll defer to our treasurer,
Yeah,
but
yes,
yes,
we
we
have.
have. We did today.
In the very first draft, there was a blank for us to fill that in. And actually, today, I think, was the first, really, the first hearty discussion that we had. And
A little different.
it
than
is
business,
very
but
different,
yeah.
and we are such a unique entity. It's very difficult to try to gauge against a business, or even the way a nonprofit, traditional nonprofit is structured. And we have temporarily, being honest, sidestepped the issue a bit, and wanted to bring it back so that this group can start to weigh in on what you believe, where you believe we should be. There are always so many variables in play. We know that we are talking about a couple of endeavors that, should they come to fruition, and I would think they probably both are going to come to fruition eventually, and that being the detox center and the women's sober living. Those are not going to be inexpensive ventures, I'm guessing. But there always seems to be something in the offing, and that's part of our role. Frank always talks about being at the 30,000 or 300,000 or whatever level we are. We're in outer space looking down and trying to gauge what those needs are for the community. And things just keep changing constantly. We didn't duck the question, we actually talked about it, and because we don't really have a firm grasp on how we should go, we thought one of the next steps was to get a draft together and bring it to this board and start to hear what your insights might be, and then we'll take it back. Because we wanted to codify some language, and right now it's very loose, and basically says at the discretion of the board.
Well, I just think that, as a citizen, okay, and sitting here and saying, wow, we got $18 million. Okay, what are you doing with that? Our run rate's 1.2. Okay, well, then at the end of the year, you're gonna be left with, there should be some logical explanation or hope, at least on why we need.
And there is other language about what the reserves are there for, what they exist to do, and there's just a few bullets that, cover options that have already happened to this entity.
It seems in there are three dimensions. That one is our burn rate monthly and how much we want to have accessible at any given time. And that seems to obviously more than covered with regard to category 2.
Yeah.
The second one has to do with our planning, which are the projects that you've just talked about, that I think we need to probably be interacting with the Finance Committee in terms of having them help us plan. We're anticipating a buy of X within 9 months, what have you. And then the third is going to be how we use this revolving money when it comes time in October to tell the taxpayers how much we're looking to gather and whether or not the money's more valuable in their pocket as opposed to us maintaining the same millage or what have you. You know, do we need to carry a reserve that we're carrying at any given time? And I think that's probably more influenced by the second category and what our plans are going to be, what we're going to be buying and so forth. And do we really need to have a reserve or not?
Yeah, that was my point in
Yeah.
being able to explain what it's for. Some thought I have is, if in fact we hadn't done something with the hospital and COVID came along, it would have been up to
It got
the
mentioned,
hospital
yeah.
district.
Like I mentioned this
okay,
morning.
To cover a lot of that. So, you say, oh, well, another, but, that never happened in their lifetime before, so I don't know. It's just something that we need to flesh out, I think, before we do decide what the millage is next year.
Just a couple things I wanted to add to this conversation because it's important. Number one is don't assume when you see that number at the bottom, 18 million, that's something that's in any reserves. Our revenue is front-loaded from the taxpayers, number one. Number two, the 3.8 from the VNA sale, that would be something that would be invested as well. And number three, and the most important point I want to make, is the fact that don't assume if Cleveland is sitting here at a place where they've seen losses. Yes, they've made a lot of investments, but they're experiencing losses. Let's not assume that every other healthcare organization, including hospitals in our county, are operating in a profitable fashion that'll make them sustainable for the next several years. So I think it's easy for us to assume that the need of the past will be the need of the future. We can't assume that because and this is another COVID aside or anything like that. The healthcare environment is it's a fragile environment, and there's a lot of dynamics happening right now between payers and providers, and for us to be responsible in making sure that the residents of our county have ensured the best access to healthcare possible. We just have to be very mindful of what we do with this cash and these reserves. I just wanted to state that, knowing this business for so many years.
And the Finance and Audit Committee just met earlier today. We met at 11:30. One of the things that was helpful, actually, with Alan being there, kind of gave us a history of and the process. Once upon a time, a $2.5 million reserve was all that they felt was needed and the logic behind it, and then how things have shifted. And by the time I think he had last been really actively engaged, it was a $9 million was the right number. And that would be true reserves again. We're
Right, true reserves.
not inclusive of the tax revenue. But he said the reality is since then we've lived through COVID. There are so many variables, and we're just an odd duck in some regards, so you don't know how. There are different models that we can look at and try to apply, and we did a little bit of that. But rather than getting really bogged down in it because we knew it was a core thing, we kind of dodged it slightly. But it's unsettled, but will get settled, because I think we're all in agreement.
I have a question regarding this, just at number one. Is there an automatic, once, say, for example, there's maturity date of one of the bonds for 2024, is that automatically rolled over to another bond investment?
No, the company that we work with, Deep Blue, who handles our investments, and I said at Finance and Audit today, The company that we hired to do this a couple of years ago, they've done a fantastic job. I'm on the phone with our advisors, on a couple times a week, and their communication is fantastic. Their recommendations have been fantastic, so I can't say enough about Deep Blue and how they've impacted the funds we invested in the hospital district. But that money's already been reinvested. I already took that treasury already matured, and I already reinvested it. So what you're seeing is December. What you're going to see for January, when you look at our rate of our percent of available cash invested, you're seeing 88%. For January, it'll show 96%. So that has since rolled over and been reinvested.
You've heard me report to you over the past 6 months, anytime one of these T-bills has matured and a decision that it's been transferred into our operating account, or we were flush with other cash and there was no need for it, so it's going to get reladdered, and that's part of the transparency that we wanted to have. But fundamentally, you'll continue to get those reports or see them as we go through the process. But
Correct. They reach out to me, Dr. Cooney, and let me know that this is maturing. Frank, what would you like to do with this? And I said, what's your recommendation? This is paying 5.5%, this is paying 4.9%. Okay, we'll do the 5.5. Let's put that up, so.
And I have a second question. On page 2 of the balance sheet, Michael,
yes,
it says at the top, the liabilities, current liabilities, 1.275. Is that monthly or cumulative? Or to Mary Beth's question about taxpayers and how much money we spend or will be spending on a monthly basis?
that is, I believe, just showing the liabilities that we were carrying. That's the nut we have.
To the people that we.
Exactly, everyone that we are funding.
Correct.
I again want to thank Frank. I mean, this is a handy, succinct, and easily understood overview that I believe is going to be better for all of you to have a handle on the district's investments. So thank you, Frank, for pulling that together. And I already did the last thing I had here was that we did meet today. And I'm pleased to report that we completed our first pass of the draft of the Accounting and Financial Practices and Procedures Manual. Frank made good notes and is actually going to do the update of the Word doc with all the revisions and edits and additions. And it will next be going to a review by our auditors. There were a few sections there we needed their input on and thumbs up. And then it's going to pass our legal counsel's desk as well. But when that all happens, that draft will be coming to you, which I anticipate should be within a couple months.
Good.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. It's a good report. Executive Director Frank.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to, just for clarification, the length of my reports and what I report on will vary from month to month. There's several things that we're currently working on within the district, but I don't typically like to report on anything unless we have made some significant progress or it's got some teeth to it. So I just wanted to share that. So if I ever give a brief report, it's not because not a lot happened that month. It's just because I don't have a lot to say. I like to report, accomplishments, achievements, forward progress. I don't like to report plans. So I'm just going to we're going to start with some updates and follow-up items. UF Health Center for Psychiatry and Addiction Medicine. I'm going to knock on wood. I don't know if this is real wood, but I hope it is. So far, so good. The team has continued to do a fantastic job on just handling the patient transitions, and I've checked in with Dr. Creelman, checked in with Wes Salmons of Mental Health Collaborative, checked in with Cecilia with Cleveland Indian River to see what's happening in their ER, and the report has been good. So far, so good for that. VCOM, I think we've already given a report on that. Impact campaign, I had mentioned a couple meetings ago how we're working on rebranding the district and showing the impact. So we're going to be working on finalizing content for an annual report and also our updates to our website. Look forward to that. I think it's going to be, it's going to really showcase a lot of the fantastic work and the impact the district has made for many years, just in a little bit different light, shining a little bit different light on it. Independent Special Hospital District Performance Review. We had a call last week with BJM, the group we're working with, and we're ahead of the curve. There's probably several folks who haven't started along this journey yet, but I kind of got the sense from the call, and Dawn and Kate, correct me if you think I'm wrong, that we might be kind of first in line for this. So we were kind of early adopters at making sure we had our ducks in a row. So we're going to have our final meeting with them is going to be on January 29th, where we'll be presented with our draft report. Dawn's been championing that, has taken lead on that, and she's done a fantastic job working with Kate and Jenny and our team. So we'll have a draft on the 29th to share with the trustees by the end of the month, as we had stated. New items, so we had engaged an HR consultant. This was something that I really wanted to make sure we did. The hospital district is a small staff. There's 5 of us. Smallest staff I've ever had, but definitely the mightiest. But I wanted to make sure that we had all the elements in place for compliance. My only exposure is the many years I worked in New York and, a few years that I worked in California. But I'm definitely, compliance when it comes to human resources items is very important to me. So I wanted to make sure that we had everything dialed in here with the district. So we engaged Donna D'Alfonso, who's very high qualified, very well qualified, senior certified professional with Society for Human Resources Management, senior professional in human resources with the Standards Institute. She's very well qualified, a ton of experience. We've engaged her firm to come in and just make sure that the district is 100% compliant with all our HR items. So that's underway. And the last item I want to report on is very important. So this was a follow-up item from our discussions with New Horizons, and that was chaired by Carrie Bartlett, our committee. One of the things that we wanted to ensure was that we have 24/7 coverage of a mobile response team in Indian River County, and we currently don't have 24/7 coverage, but I'm going to explain that a little bit. So what is a mobile response team and what do they do? So these are teams that are called when someone is having a severe emotional, behavioral health issue, a crisis in homeschool, wherever they are, it doesn't matter. This is all over the state of Florida. We have these mobile response teams. So the overall goal to reduce trauma, prevent unnecessary psychiatric hospitalizations, criminal justice involvement, the whole process is to make sure that they have access to care as quickly as possible, and it's done in a de-escalatory way that provides the best outcome for the resident, provides the safest situation for the mobile response team and the clinicians, and also the safest environment for law enforcement. And I will tell you, we convened a meeting on January 8th to discuss this. We had, all parties were present, New Horizons, we had Mental Health Collaborative, Treasure Coast, Cleveland Clinic, and our Sheriff's Office, and talked through a lot of the issues and identified the main problem of why we're unable to get this program set up 24/7 here. It's not an issue of money. It's not an issue of desire. It's an issue of finding clinicians, and this happens in other counties, so we should be able to do it here, who are going to want to work those schedules. And there's less and less folks inclined who are healthcare professionals who want to work overnight. It's a challenge for any of us. I mean, who wants to work overnight, right? So we're working together. I'm going to convene another meeting, but we had a great discussion. But we had the stakeholders there. We had a great discussion, and then we're going to work on a plan to make sure we bring those services to Indian River County as soon as possible. It seems like the way we talked through several examples, and what Mental Health Collaborative had to say, and Treasure Coast, Cleveland, just everyone coming together to have a discussion about what the safest, best scenario is for our residents, to protect everyone and have the best outcome for the resident and their family who's going through the crisis. And we had a great discussion, and we have a solution. We just have to figure out how to get there. So we're going to convene another couple meetings, and we will solve this. I don't have a timeline for when we're going to get this service up and running, but it's definitely a priority because the impact, it's such a big deal. And
This is managed by New Horizons.
correct. They already have the expertise. New Horizons has the expertise. They're running this in other counties.
And do they have 24/7 in the other
They
counties?
do. The challenge that we faced, and I will say, we had all parties there at the table. Everyone was there. And we convened this meeting at 9 o'clock on the Monday morning after a holiday weekend, and we had everyone show up. So everyone recognizes the importance. The key is just going to be, how can we impact, or how can the hospital district, how can this discussion result in, hiring the right clinicians who are going to be able to serve in this role where the hours are not great.
Well, but they do that in the other counties.
Indeed.
And these would be, when you say hired, these would be hired by New Horizons?
Correct.
Or someone else?
By all means. The only purpose, this is again, going back to what, Michael had said before, this is our 30,000-foot view. So this is us looking and saying, these are services, Carrie had identified this. These are services that we need in this county. We want to have these services here. They have it in other counties. And if you look at the data on it and you look at across the state of Florida, the impact for safety, for access, it's tremendous how it impacts the family positively of the person who's going through the crisis. So this is something that we can do, and we can do successfully. We just have to make sure. So we're not hiring anyone. The only purpose we're having is we're just convening and figuring out the solution and pushing.
No, I appreciate it. I think it's important. I think it's I'm just thinking of some circumstances that we've had come up over the years that this probably would have made a difference. So let's say initially New Horizons doesn't have the capacity to fill the bill. And say another entity from the north is going to come in and help, so you have overlap. I'm just, who are they contracting with, or what is the entity that is the anchor, if you will, for this? Will it be us, or where?
Well, as we currently stand, we're not an operator. What our goal, I would pull them into the conversation. If there's someone that you're aware of that could be beneficial.
I don't know.
to this
I'm just
conversation.
thinking, if
Is there other people? that-
right, if there's another contractor, in other words,
It's a great idea,
If because where we are, for whatever reason, somebody can't carry it all for us, is there another vendor to the north that could come in? And then if that's the case, well, who's pulling them together, and is that anchoring entity?
Yeah, well, we would, New Horizons has the expertise. We know that because they do this successfully elsewhere, and it has a big impact. The only issue which I think we can resolve is finding master's level folks who are going to want to work overnight.
But they found them in other counties.
Indeed. Not only that, but doctors do it all the time. There's lots of people. Hospitals are all 24/7. So people do it. So I think this elevates this to, everyone's attention here. The need is there. We'll fill the positions and again, and so we'll just, so we'll guide the organizations through this process until we get there. But the impact would be significant to our county for safety, for outcomes, for impact. So that's what we're working towards. So we only met once, but we got to the bottom of the issue. It's not a financial issue. It's not a political issue. It's a hiring the right person issue who's going to be interested in doing this. If they did it elsewhere, we can do it here.
And in all likelihood, it would obviously be an on-call sort of setting. Have you all had any opportunity to take a look at what the volume would be, what the demand would be?
There was some discussion about that, but I don't even think we're there yet in terms of, because, our county being 160,000 people versus some of the other counties that they function in, the volume, I would assume, might be a little bit less. However, it doesn't, the major issue is that we just have to find the folks to work the shifts. So that's what we need to do.
Franklin, then what's next? The Indian River Medical Center Cleveland Clinic Indian Medical Center has full-time people on staff in the emergency room to handle those type of crises. So what happens in New Horizons? What do they do after they intervene?
The goal, Dr. Cooney, is to prevent that from happening. The goal is to keep them out of the ER. The goal is to keep, so we even walked through the plan of how and this was just, I mean, the team at the table, they're experts at this. I was just an observer convening the meeting, but I will say that, the way, we had our captain from the, Angela from the Indian River County Sheriff's Office there, and a lot of experience with this, and just the team speaking to this on how the mobile response team would go in advance. They would de-escalate the situation. While the police are going to respond, the police are going to stay back here, 2 streets over. We don't want to bring the police in. We don't want to do that unless absolutely necessary. The whole purpose is to get them care as quickly as we can, de-escalate the situation, and, keep the sheriff's office out of it is the ideal scenario, which is safer and better for everyone. So the idea is not to let them get to the ER, not to let them get, not have them be admitted for anything, not have them be Baker Acted. I mean, the whole point is to try to keep this, and you have the healthcare, you have the behavioral health professional, who this is what they do for a living, having that initial interaction with the individual and the family, which the discussion was, that would be the most beneficial, most effective means.
So they continue with outpatient care is the idea.
Correct, and they have psychiatry on call. So New Horizons has psychiatry on call, so if it was an issue of getting meds or anything like that, they could solve that problem.
So it fits into our presenter tonight, right?
Indeed. And yeah, right, we can have the expert speak about that, Dr. Kromers.
I don't want to, are you confident that money isn't an issue? I don't want to cast any aspersions, because obviously there have been some issues with New Horizons. I think things are
Right. Well,
tracking better.
I had both the president and the CEO there. I had, the president and the COO there. So both Will and Greg were there. And we didn't have a discussion about finances once. Okay. That would be an easy problem to solve. That wasn't the issue. The issue was finding the folks, but if they found it for other counties, we should be able to do it for Indian River as well.
All right.
That's all for my report. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Frank. Cromer, let's talk about Mental Health Association. Like I said, it fits right into the discussion.
Good afternoon. And thank you for the opportunity to report on the issues we're seeing that continue to shape and reinforce our strategy at the Mental Health Association in order to fill the gaps in mental health services. In particular, I'd like to highlight an increasing demand for mental health services, the rise in both the severity and acuity of problems across all age demographics, and how these issues underscore a critical societal shift toward recognizing and addressing mental health as an integral component of overall well-being. In fact, according to the 2023 State of Mental Health in America report, Florida ranks #1 in the prevalence of mental health illness among adults. That's, you want to be #1 in a lot of things. This is not one of those things, unfortunately.
No.
And they go on to say that Florida ranks 7th. So when you're talking about the prevalence, we're highest. And while that is occurring, we also rank 45th in the ability to for these individuals to access care. A little different in Indian River County because we're unique, but a macro view of it, we're the highest in the most problems, and we're really kind of doing a poor job overall as a state in managing it. So why is this happening? The factors such as heightened awareness, reduced stigma surrounding mental health issues, and evolving challenges of our post-COVID society contribute to this growing need. Individuals now more than ever are seeking support for mental health services. As we navigate complex societal changes, it is imperative to prioritize and invest in the expansion of mental health resources to ensure that the residents of Indian River County receive the necessary support and care to foster mental and emotional resilience. While it's our job to have the ability to provide services to everyone in the county, and we are doing that at the MHA, an expansion of these services to support our children here is critical. The mental health needs we are seeing in our schools reflect the growing recognition of the profound impact mental health has on students' lives. Schools are not only academic institutions, but are also crucial environments for the societal and emotional development of young individuals. The MHA can and will play an essential role in enhancing the well-being of students by offering specialized expertise, resources, and advocacy by expanding our services. Now, with that being said, I also have a few other important people on staff here. Angela Gazinski, who is our Chief Operating Officer. We have Laura Saputo, our Clinical Manager, and Heather Roberts, who is our Chief Clinical Officer. So I'd love to take some questions. We would all chime in, but the gap that we're really seeing now is we need to expand. We have hit a ceiling at the MHA quite a long time ago. We've converted closets. We have people in cubicles. We need more space. So we signed a lease for the UF building.
Okay, I was going to say, I understood that you were going to take that over.
We signed a lease for the UF building, and our plans for it are the MHA Parent and Child Center, which we'll be asking for some help with, we hope, but I'll give you a brief overview of what that will look like. Okay. So at the center, we'd like to focus on skill building to promote academic and life skills, increase therapeutic services, of course. We'll have teen groups, parent groups, workforce initiative, and provide child and adolescent psychiatry. So the idea is to move some administrative offices and staff to the UF building. I'll just call it that for now. And we'll hire another psychiatric nurse practitioner because we have a need in our county for more psychiatric care with the void that UF will lead. We'll hire more therapists. And as far as the MHA Parent-Child Center, we'll hire more clinicians. And we also plan to partner with 2 other agencies, Tykes and Teens. They need space as well. They do some things that we don't do. They focus, their piece of this puzzle will be to focus more on infant care, and we'll have Suncoast that will do some case management type things for the families. It's a big leap for us, but part of our mission and our goal is to meet the needs and fill the gaps, and this is one. This is really essential. We don't have the same ability to meet all of the students in the schools like we once had. So we have to come up with other ways in order to do that. So this is our plan, and this is how we're going to do that.
And do you find the residents receptive to that? I mean, are they seeking you out versus where you recognize you were in the schools to recognize it?
They're desperate for help. Okay. Families and kids are desperate for help right now. As you know, we have a walk-in clinic, right? Mm-hmm. So we do free screenings. Anybody can come in Monday through Friday, be seen without an appointment, without charge for the most part. We only have so many therapists to treat these individuals, so we have what's called a case assign list. It's not really a wait list. I mean, it's kind of a wait list, but they can come back and they can go to our groups as much as they want. They can come in back to the clinic, so they will never be without services, but they're waiting for their forever therapist. Half of that list right now, and it's up to about 150 people, are children. And think about the most vulnerable people. When we were going to the high school, in one day, we would have 20, 30, 40 students say, I'm in crisis and I need to be seen right now. This up and coming year, we won't be in the high school.
So Dr. Cromer, one of the things I keep thinking about is we are educating more and more therapists and more, right? And we're demanding more and more people to come in.
Yeah.
But just like you said, Florida has the highest prevalence, right? I don't see anybody studying or dealing with the causes. They were dealing with the end result, which is people in crisis and people hurting, but
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, and that is due to, we can't unring the bell of the pandemic. The pandemic has jump-started a sequence of events that will never be irreversible. We'll be able to manage it to some point, but we're still reeling. We are reeling in this community. I'm a psychologist, I'm a CEO, and I can tell you we are in a full-blown mental health pandemic in this
That seems contrary to
country.
me because Florida was probably the least restrictive during COVID than most other states, okay? I mean, particularly from a children's perspective. I mean, my grandchildren didn't go to school for 2 years, okay? That didn't happen here.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that
the
seems
kids
contrary.
the kids were out quite a bit. I have 3 boys, and they're all I have one in high school, middle school, and elementary school. You're right to some extent, but they were out quite a bit.
I'm not trying to argue with you.
No,
I'm
no,
just
not at
trying to
all.
Put the logic in my head.
And it's not just that, right? It's not just that. And I don't
Social
want to get
media.
too much into politics, but, politics also have a great impact on what's going on here in our schools. And
I imagine it was during a meeting where you were here, very much like where we are now, a brief conversation about the possibility of collecting data points with the idea of, okay, are there focal points that our units of local government could address housing? In other words, that we would be able to use as information to help form public policy. And some of this stuff actually probably is pretty obvious, employment, availability of suitable employment in our community.
It's all that.
The cost of housing, those sorts of things. There may be other more subtle things that we might be able to mine out of collection of data points. I don't know how that happens because you have private practitioners in addition to organizations like yours, but is there any capability or interest capacity for us to, as a community, collect data points on what the drivers are, these emotional drivers?
Oh, sure, and we collect a lot of that data right now. We survey all of our patients, and
Is it used beyond the patient or internally for your planning? Is there any way we
all
could
of the
use that
above.
information?
all of the above, really. And we could, have a report for you and maybe come back and present again. It's just so many things right now that are driving this. The way I explain it to a lot of people is that pre-pandemic, okay, let's say if an average individual was having some depressive or anxiety disorder symptoms, something of that nature, and they were, let's say, moderate in the intensity, all right? Maybe they were going to counseling or not, maybe they're getting help or not. Post-pandemic, all of those people were pushed into the severe or extreme category, and then they needed help yesterday. Just from 2001 to 2019, there was a 40% jump in the need for counseling services, according to SAMHSA. So that was pre-pandemic. So think about 2001 to 2024. It is exponential, the number of people needing help. So how do we solve this problem? Well, in part, it's accessibility, but it's let's get to the kids early. Let's do skill building, because they don't all need therapy. They need solid skill building. They need academics. They need peer-to-peer support. All of this is really critical. So we have to ramp up our services across the board, but if we can double down on our kids here, we'll be in a better spot 5 to 10 years from now.
May I just make a comment? So in my role, I'm exposed to a lot of what Dr. Cromer's talking about through different committees I serve on, one of them being the Children's Services Advisory Committee. And the fact that the strategic plans for some of these committees are getting to, which we're all trained in, root cause analysis. I mean, we don't want to focus on all the time, solving the result of a problem that if we could fix the problem, we wouldn't have the result. It doesn't change the fact that the result has still happened.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not going to be able to solve this problem completely. And while Children's Service Advisory Committee and other committees are focused on trying to get to the kids and the families as soon as they can to try to make a positive impact, it doesn't change the fact that the result has already happened. And there are tons of people out there who need this care immediately, as Dr. Cromer says. So I just wanted to share that piece. And this is just what I learned in all the committees I've been involved in this county. The need, no question, is there. Do we want to solve the root cause? Absolutely. That's the reason I'm here. We have to solve the root cause of these issues so we can stop the secondary effects. But the secondary effects live every single day.
Yeah, there's
Sure.
no question that we need to expand
Yeah, and you know,
and focus on the children and.
yeah, and the accessibility of therapists right now is difficult. And once again, in part a reaction from COVID, because a lot of people went to telehealth and they could make more money, forget sitting in an office 9 to 5, they could be in their living room and make more money. Part of the reason the MHA has been so successful is that we doubled down on our training model. So we have a core of licensed individuals. We have a variety of licensed individuals. We have a psychologist and myself. We have social workers. We have mental health counselors. So a nice variety. And then we also have a handful of them who are qualified supervisors. So people coming out of school, their goal might be to open up a private practice, but they need to get their supervised hours first. And that's why they come to us first. It's good for them because we provide the supervision at no cost. I mean, if someone were to come to my private practice in the past to have that kind of supervision, I mean, it's essentially an $8,000 to $10,000 cost. So we're saving them. We get these individuals for 2 years. And a lot of times, by the time they're all trained up, they want to stay with us because what we do so well. So while there are challenges, we do have solutions. We do, the issues are still rising. The 2023 suicide rates by the CDC are not out yet, but I can tell you the 2022 rates are the highest ever in our history. I mean, that's incredible. I would assume that 2023 is even higher. So we want prevention, we want intervention, we want to open the parent-child center and really get to the root cause, as you say, to have a healthier and happier Indian River County.
May I ask what your timetable is for the opening, getting set up for the Parent and Child Center and, all that you've got to go through?
Well, UF just vacated. They still have some things to drag out of there, but we hope to be in at the end of the month. We'll be moving staff over, and so I would say a soft opening mid-February and hit the floor running March.
And you can have the staffing to wrap up some of this?
We have some staff that we're going to move over, but we are going to be meeting with Frank and others and hope for some financial support here. I have ideas on how you can spend that $18 million.
Dr. Cromer, you talked about escalating patients, numbers, increase in
Yes.
numbers. When I look at your walk-in center data, though, am I reading this incorrectly? Because I see where between the first quarter and the second quarter, there have been decreases.
There have been some wobbles, and that's not unusual to have. What we're also finding is that when people are coming in, let me just back up. Years ago, when I was at the university, Florida Atlantic University, we were on a brief counseling model. So people would come in and 12 sessions or less, we wanted them out. All right, that's a thing in the past. People now, not only are they coming in with higher acuity, but they're staying much longer. So whereas sometimes we may not have as many coming in, but they're staying much longer. So that kind of jams things up as well.
Would that be something perhaps you'd like to share with us, that kind of data, so that I don't think, well, he said that it's increasing, but I look at his numbers and it's not increasing.
Yeah,
You don't have to do it now, what I'm saying
No, that's
is
okay.
that might be
That's
something
why I
that-
dragged my staff
Yeah.
out here, so we can address some of these
We do all the
questions.
numbers, so, and we do look at the variance every year. That October through December has been historically low. It always is. People are on vacation, kids are on vacation, the holidays. Usually it ramps up again in the post, and even when you look at the children's numbers, you can see, July through September, there's not many screenings, and then when school starts. So it fluctuates on the numbers, and you have to forgive me, usually our reports are 6-month reports, but starting this past October, we went to a new electronic med record system, and trying to compile the data from both of the systems and try to compile it together. So, but looking at it together, based on previous reports, it's about the same. We had a drastic, about a 30% increase last year in screenings, and now it's just kind of flatlining. It's normal. And then we do see a lot of post-holiday screen, it's just the way things work. We can't tell you Mondays, we always have more screenings. We can have 10 on a Monday and the next day have 2, or the next Monday, it's always fluctuating. But some of the data numbers looking at is we're busier. We're providing a lot more therapy services. And again, trying to get these clients out, and Heather can speak of that, the length of stay has increased because of the acuity, but also working with the clinicians are always looking at that length of stay so we can continue to get more clients in. And I do want to point out, we give them many referrals in the community. I talk to parents all the time, and parents are like, no, I want to come to you guys. I'm comfortable there. With this parent-child center, it's nothing that came up because UF was vacating. We've had this plan for a long time, trying to focus on the other aspect, as Mary Beth was saying, yes, we're here to screen when they're in crisis. What about pre and getting them, and really focusing on families and the prevention and intervention, and kind of getting that early. UF was just our opportunity to go, if we didn't take this, it's not going to solve our problem, and we have to do this. Even it's the cart before the horse, but, we will figure it out because we need to service these people. And interesting enough, Ann Posey from Tyson Teens is like, I need space, and and Debbie from Suncoast. So I think this is really going to be a collaborative effort. We've had some really great meetings and looking at the challenges as us as providers see in the community and come together in a collaborative effort.
And UF is, for those who may not know, UF is located right next to the MHA. So it's really a perfect opportunity for us with regard to.
So our previous plan had been, we take up 3/4 of our building. There's a quarter of build-out space. We had planned this parent-child center, but the build-out was too costly, and it would take a long time. So when UF came, we were like, okay, this could be our opportunity. It's a lot more space than we can handle. We still are going to be doing the build-out with a year lease at UF in the hopes to move over to one big center. So it kind of fell on us, and it's kind of going as planned. And, yes, we have hiring to do. I think Heather's got a lot going on with that. But, I think this is something that we all as providers came together and showing the community that we all want to work together. I mean, there's enough clients, and we want them going, because we have young kids come in, they don't need therapy, they need skill building, they need to learn how to focus, they need to learn how to react in situations, and if you're getting them at that point and teaching them those skills academically, and being able to stop that later on, they're not going to need the service because they're learning those skills.
And it's not just the children that need the skill building, the parents and the families. So, and that's something that Debbie and I were just talking about a little while ago. There's other options too. You were asking about cause. I can't really speak to all the adults, but you know, coming from following Phil with the school and the COVIDs, a lot of the problems were families. A lot of it was socialization. A lot of it was parenting skills, or, you know, divorces or separations, and even adjusting coming back after COVID. A lot of social behavioral learning, relearning those skills. So that's where, when we provide it, we do it in Boys and Girls Club, if we can get them early and we can get that wrapped around and involve the parents. One of our therapists has developed this amazing curriculum that has a parent guide and a child guide, kind of like old school Strengthening Families, but we have big goals on getting that in. If we can get the parents in on their side and the children in and working together, then hopefully down the road, this kind of negates all the future problems. I mean, not saying they're not gonna have them, but there's even like a take-home guide after you graduate or finish the program. So there's a lot of things that we haven't been able to do for staffing and spacing, but now with this opportunity and then collaboration with the other agencies, we're really, really grateful that that's gonna come to fruition.
Yeah, it's a comprehensive and collaborative, you know, venture. And that's really how we're gonna overcome this, is we're gonna overcome it together. No agency solely can do this by themselves. So that's the idea of the MHA Parent-Child Center, yeah.
And again, I mean, if there's any other questions, because I know we kind of sidebarred, but, you know, there's a lot more increase in services. We're going to see screenings fluctuate and go up and down. But overall consistent, usually on average, it could be 5 a day.
On the walk-in crisis too.
And, you know, right now with people waiting to get assigned a clinician, they can come in at any time they're in crisis or having an issue. So we're having a lot more of those because they've been, you know, they've already been screened. They're our clients, so we're gonna see them on a walk-in basis.
Well, and not just the ones waiting assignment, current clients. We actually had one come in yesterday afternoon in between her sessions with her therapist as a walk-in. Her therapist was busy, so she saw somebody else. So that service provides a huge help to the clients.
So we're excited to show you more as we're in our development phase, and with Deborah's family, it's changed names, family's case manager.
No, case
No,
coordination.
it's case.
Like,
Anyways, we don't want to
Thank
be
you.
like, you know, TCCH and go care coordinator. But anyways, in Ann's infant mental health, trauma-informed care, and then our community case manager, and also solving some of these other nonprofit agencies having space issues like us, but still being able to provide services in the community, so.
Any questions?
All good questions.
Lots going on.
Lots going on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
Thanks.
Okay, is there any unfinished business? New business? Other business?
I lost track. Did we approve our minutes?
Yes.
Okay.
We did. Any public comment? Not tonight. Well, then we are adjourned. Thank you all for being here and listening. Kate, did we have anybody on Zoom or anything?
We had people on Zoom, but nobody.
Okay, nobody raising their hand.
Did Barb stay on Zoom? I wasn't paying attention.
So Barb, unfortunately, was having some technical issues.
Okay.
But she was on for a little while.
Okay.
Lisa, the 3163 lady, was on